Here's T-Bone and Heather on Star 98.3 and 97.7 The Bay.
It's 9 minutes to 3 o'clock, 8:09. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Hello, good morning.
Glad to have you along with us. Going to jump in here a little early because we got our friend BJ Bowling holding on the line. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Morning.
Good morning, BJ. There you are. I'm always a little nervous when I push that button. Hi, welcome to the show. Glad to have you along with us.
Hey, good morning, BJ. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Hanging in there. A busy morning. We got a bunch of stuff to ask you. First of which, I need an explanation of code home rule versus charter governance. What is the difference between the two?
That's a good question. It's really not an interpretation, but it's just the facts. St. Mary's and Calvert County are commissioner forms of government, and that's one form where they have to go to Annapolis for certain laws to get passed and certain things to be enacted. Back in about 2000, I think it was about 2002-ish, Charles County voters elected to go to code home rule, which is a hybrid form. You keep your titles as commissioners. However, you're able to govern and pass laws at a local level without having to go to Annapolis. Of course, there are still certain things you have to go to Annapolis for, like you would in charter, but it gives you more power locally to do things. So we're a little different from St. Mary's and Calvert in that sense. Now, charter, which was on the ballot, I believe, in 2014 and was rejected by the voters, is the third type of government, and really it creates two branches of government. So it'll create a legislative branch with a council, an executive branch with a county executive. Now, really, to me, the only difference is just that. Right now, the Board of Commissioners in Charles County under home rule, we carry both the legislative and the executive form in the same body. Mm-hmm. So right now, we can pass laws and we can do things pretty easily without having to go back and forth to an executive form. Now, some will say, and it's kind of misleading, that under a charter government, a county executive will now run day-to-day operations. Well, it's partly true. With that, what will happen is right now the Board of Commissioners, the five of us, we hire a county administrator, much like what you have in St. Mary's and Calvert. And that county administrator works for the five commissioners. We direct that person, and they run the day-to-day operation. In a county executive and charter form of government, only the county executive will hire the county administrator, and the county administrator will take direction. Instead of from five equally distributed power-wise commissioners, it'll go to one county executive. The council will have nothing to do with the day-to-day operations of county government. And what's misleading is, I think it's been put out there that you're not electing the county administrator. Well, that's true, but you won't elect them in a charter form of government either. You're just consolidating all that power to the executive, because the county executive, and I worked in charter, does not run the day-to-day operations. They're the politician, they're the political figurehead. The appointed county administrator will run day-to-day operations. Does that kind of break it down for you?
Yes, absolutely. That does. So Charles County, right now, you are different than Calvert and St. Mary's. St. Mary's and Calvert, they need to go to Annapolis. Right. Sometimes on bended knee to ask. Give me an example of what you in Charles County don't have to go to Annapolis for that maybe St. Mary's or Calvert would have to go to Annapolis for.
Well, I can tell you, and I don't know quite exactly what St. Mary's or Calvert would have to, but there was a big push in charter, mind you, and as I'm pretty open about this was a politically appointed board. It was a very divided board of commissioners. It came up in the last board, and we declined to move charter forward. Well, this new board decided to move charter forward and create a charter board. So with that being said, there's been a lot of things said that charter can do and that we can't do as commissioners, but actually we can do, and it was proven about 2 or 3 weeks ago in our legislative proposals. One was term limits. Folks were saying that we needed charter to create term limits. No, we can do that now, and actually it was brought up by the citizens, and we voted. The commissioners voted to put it into law, and it was pushed down 3-2 by the three commissioners that
Did you, BJ? Did you vote for term limits?
Yes, I did. I was one of the two that did.
And Amanda voted for term limits.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the same people pushing the charter as far as commissioners are the same ones that refused to. Like, another thing was there was another one that they had pushed forward. I'm trying to remember what it was. There was like 3 items that the charter board is saying that they need charter for. That we actually proved them that we could do it, under code home rule. It's just the 3 commissioners. It's almost like being done on purpose. Like they're stopping the function of government to justify the charter.
Which one of the three wants to be executive? Is it Thomasina? I mean, is it Ralph or is it Ruben? Which one wants to be executive? Because they're not going to vote either. They're not going to vote you or Amanda in to be executive.
That ain't going to happen.
Well, I mean, I think the citizens, believe it or not, could, but now I remember what the other one was: removal of a county commissioner.
Yeah.
So they're saying that in order to remove a county elected official, we need a charter. Well, the citizens brought that forward as another legislative proposal, and it was a 3-2 vote. And I'm thinking the hypocrisy,
right,
to sit here and it's very frustrating. And I commend the members of the charter board for they were given a task to come up with a charter. I don't agree with the charter. I don't agree with some of the statements of the chairman, but I respect the fact that they were put on the board to do a job. But I will tell you, the last charter board meeting, it was kind of disturbing. I got called from some of the community and said, you really need to watch the last charter meeting at the end. So I did. And basically the chairman tried to put a provision in the charter that would prevent any sitting council member for what they said was harassing or attacking any board, which I'm not. I'm just speaking my opinion. And actually, the county administrator, who sits on the charter committee is kind of like a reference guide, had to pretty much give him a civics lesson on free speech. And one of the most protective speeches is political speech.
Do they not?
For an elected official.
Let me ask you something, BJ. We're talking with BJ Bowling, commissioner up in Charles County. Do they not understand the irony in what they're saying when they're talking about commissioners being harassing? And what they have gone through and what they have allowed to happen from the Board of Commissioners in Charles County? I mean, that is kind of the pot calling the kettle black, isn't it?
Well, I think it's ironic. I think it's one of those things what I said before was creating a problem to justify the solution they want. We could easily solve a lot of the problems that we're dealing with now in Charles County by just a simple one vote coming the other way and dealing with it. But instead, it's almost like it's feeding fodder to the fire so when people get upset about things happening in government when they're out there saying, oh, well, charter will fix it, like an inspector general.
Right.
We could do that right now. I mean, but at the end of the day, and the price tag that the staff came back with, which isn't the total because there's going to be more we ask from them when this comes back to the Board of Commissioners, is $1.6 million to create a title of a county executive and to essentially create an inspector general's office, which we can do right now, and we can do all, and we were trying to do it. So, and I know one thing I will tell you, another thing being put out there is, county executives will give us more power in Annapolis. And listen, I like to apply logic to things, and when you talk about power in Annapolis, it's your population. It's how many delegates and senators you have, and the amount of people in your county. They're going to drive the power and influence of your county. And quite frankly, the things that have been happening that are embarrassing in this county are not because of the form of government. It's because of some of the elected officials.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Of course it is.
And not only that, but, look at Prince George's County. They have had an issue with charter and their executives since God was a boy. I mean, you cannot. I mean, take a look at what is happening there, and you get executives in there, past executives with all of this power, and it corrupts absolutely. I mean, you've got people that are hiding checks in their underwear when the police are knocking down the door. So I don't understand why anybody would think that would be a good way to go. But, everybody has an opinion. So, free speech and all that stuff. But, yeah, that's crazy to me.
Well, and I'll tell you that it's not just Prince George's. Wycomico County has a referendum on the ballot to remove the position of county executive because they believe they're in a charter because they believe it's too much power. And at the end of the day, and I kind of use this example, if the county administrator, which kind of started the whole thing with the lawsuit and everything, if the county administrator has a problem with an elected one of the 5 commissioners, they come to the other 4. So he did. He came to all 4 of us and said, this is a problem we need to deal with. And it was actually ended up being 2 of them. And so in a public forum, in a public meeting where the public is listening and it's recorded and memorialized, we brought the issue up for public discussion. Now, say this same county administrator works for a single county executive, and they see some nefarious stuff going on behind the scenes. How are they going to have that opportunity to tell the public that this is going on? Because they can only go to the executive.
Go to the executive, and the executive is the one in charge of the administrator.
Right, and they don't necessarily have weekly meetings. The county county executive doesn't have weekly meetings. It almost puts a shield between government and the people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very disturbing. Because
it's almost like they plan it that way.
I mean, I'm listening to everybody. I'm listening to the people, and I'll tell you, I have my town halls. They're open to anybody that wants to speak and ask questions. But I find when we get into a position where I'm said, oh, well, we need charter for this reason, and I look at the person and say, we can do that right now. We don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
It's very frustrating. And right now, I will tell you, the next election, Charles County has always been an at-large county where everybody has to run the whole county.
Right.
Well, we finally changed it last election where if you live in District 1, you will vote for your District 1 commissioner, and other areas of the county will not vote for that district commissioner. They'll vote for their district, and then everybody gets to vote for the president, where you don't have a situation, and it's happened before, where a commissioner loses their district, but because of the voting at large through the county, they win the race, and that's not fair to the people that live there. And I will tell you, the last charter push back in 2014, the charter people were telling people the only way you can get district voting is through charter. And I said, that's crazy. We can do it now, and we did it. We did it when Bobby was still in office. And the irony is the same two of the current members of our Board of Commissioners that voted against district voting are pushing for it in charter with charter form of government. I mean, it's just the hypocrisy.
How frustrating is it for you and Amanda when you go into these meetings and you go to,
is it contentious?
You know what the vote is going to be before it's even something comes up. You know it's going to be 3-2.
Is it a lot of side eye and contentiousness, how does anything in Charles County government get done?
It gets done. I will tell you that for the most part, on a personal level, I can get along with my colleagues. It's just I feel like when you're in that meeting and it's live, the public is hearing it. They're hearing their government in action. It gives them an opportunity to see how their elected officials are going to vote and what they have to say or lack thereof.
Yeah.
There are meetings where we sit there and some commissioners say nothing and just vote. You might have 40 community members come in for a public hearing that say that they're against something, and we kind of, at least myself, I'll speak for myself, I vocalize where I have concerns, and when it comes to vote, some of my colleagues say nothing and vote the opposite way of the citizens. So it can be challenging, but at the end of the day, would you rather those contentious meetings, those opinions be done in private?
No, I like it. I like all
it
laundry.
It open.
Done in public. Hey, quickly before we let you go, I know there's cows and stuff to do.
Why did you vote against curfew? Why did you vote against that? Give me the rationale.
Honestly, I didn't vote against it. It didn't get moved forward to a motion. But I will tell you that, I was a cop for 22 years.
Yes.
I think something needs to be done. I didn't think it was fair with the sheriff not there that it was almost like they were going after the sheriff. And I feel like our sheriff does a great job. There are some concerns in the community, and I tried to lay out there alternatives to a curfew because I don't want to say they're ineffective, but sometimes they can add a little more fuel to the fire. And our county attorney said we didn't have the legal grounds to put one in place like Prince George's did, and the reason we can do it but there were certain circumstances in place in Prince George's County that allowed the executive to do it. They weren't in place for allowing us to do it. So I'm not against it, but I think it is a last resort.
Give me an alternative. Give me one of the alternatives or a couple alternatives that you brought up.
What if everything pops off this July 4th in that neighborhood and it goes crazy?
Well, I can tell you that I had a conversation. Unlike my colleagues, I actually had a conversation with the sheriff that morning before the meeting.
Yeah.
And as a former law enforcement commander, I talked to him and said, hey, these are some legitimate concerns. He assured me that they have plans in place.
Okay,
and
good.
Much like I have said before, I think at the end of the day, we have to rely on the integrity of the person sitting there in the chair, and I'm relying on that with Troy Berry because I believe he does have a plan in place. I believe in the sheriff's department. I believe in the men and women of the sheriff's department, and I also know that certain things they can't say because it'll mess up their operational plans. And I was trying to put out there things we did in Prince George's to relieve and alleviate some of the citizens in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that they will put some of those things in place. And like I've said before, especially in a situation like theirs, a lot of times it's one or two homes that are the magnet for the problem.
Right.
And it takes a little time to build a case. You can't just rush to judgment and push things forward really fast because you won't have a solid enough case for the state's attorney to prosecute. So.
BJ, thank you for your time this morning. I know you got a busy day ahead of you, and please keep fighting the good fight in there. It can't be easy.
How's the corn looking, BJ?
Horrible.
I know, right? I drive home. It's not knee-high by the 4th of July or even high as an elephant's eye. What are we going to do?
Pray for rain for the farmers. Pray for rain for us because at the end of the day, if this turns out keeps dry like this, people are going to be feeling it in the grocery store.
Well,
Yes.
BJ, I can tell you right now, if rain comes up for a vote, I know exactly how it's going to pan out in Charles County.
3-2.
3 people are going to be like, no, we don't need any rain.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all so much for having me. I'm always feel welcome here.
All right,
anytime,
thanks,
buddy.
BJ. Good
All right,
luck
take
to
care.
you. Happy 4th. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
See ya.